calling autism this communication, social interaction, and behavior problem as if it were psychiatric. But I really think that autism is the whole thing, and that we need to think of it in a whole system, whole body, whole system way, in a whole body. Now, I wrote this up in a number of places. This article is about to come out, or one of these days soon, in a book by Chowan and Brown, called Autism, Oxidative Stress, Inflammation, and Immune Abnormalities. And it's a 13,000-word paper that I refused to write 5 times and finally caved, thinking I could write some breezy little thing, and then I got obsessed with it, and it got very intense. And I'm basically arguing, so the title is Autism, the Centrality of Active Pathophysiology and the Shift from Static to Chronic Dynamic Encephalopathy. I'm going to explain what that title means. It means what I just told you. Active pathophysiology means that this is not just an altered wiring environment, it's active cellular problems that are going on every minute of every day. And that the ways the cells are functioning differently are creating the problem now, not just that the system is programmed differently. And the shift from static to chronic dynamic encephalopathy means that this is not just something that can change. And I'm hoping, I think I put my plasticity slides in here to sum up. It means that, like, I'll tell you a story, yeah, okay, I do have those slides in here. Let me just go to them. So it's not static, but it's dynamic. So what do I mean by that? This is a paper that came out in Pediatrics. I don't have the title in here, which I should. This is an older version of my slide. Oh, here. Behaviors associated with fever in children with autism spectrum disorders. So, parent, how many of you have had the experience of a kid doing better with fever? So, parents were saying this to Zimmerman again, the same guy who got Pardo involved, and he instigated this. He's been quite a stealth figure in interesting ways. And they gave kids from various Autism Society chapters and other places, parents, thermometers, standard thermometers and standard behavior rating scales, and said when your kid gets a fever, take the temperature using this thermometer and rate your child's behavior using this scale. Took, I think, 10 years. And they got the data, and what they find is about 80% of the kids showed improvement in core features of autism that were supposed to be hardwired. How can this be? So, more eye contact. So not just the kid is feeling so lousy that they're not clearing up the place. That would mean a lot. It was real relationship. Like one mom told me, my son's 18, he doesn't do this anymore, but I used to call it visiting with my son. I mean, moving stuff. So what is this about? So the paper speculated, well, maybe it's immune, because these people are into immune stuff. Other people have speculated that the lipid membranes of the brain may function differently with heat, because some people say it happens in exercise or sun, other people say it doesn't. Somebody from the chairman of the neurology department, Einstein, said there's a part of the brain called the locus coeruleus, which sends noradrenaline projections all over really fast, and if you change the way it projects, you're going to get a very rapid change. I met Susan Bryson, who's an autism researcher in Canada, came to speak at MIT, and she talked about a woman, one of her patients who was 33 years old, and low functioning in the sense of nonverbal autism, and had orthopedic surgery and came out of anesthesia, and her mother came to the recovery room, and she started talking to her mother and told her mother, I love you, and I'm sorry I've been such a burden on you, and I know that I've been a burden. I haven't been able to express myself. And she and the mother had 6 hours together in this communion that they had never had a chance to have in their entire lives. And then the woman went to sleep, and when she came out of it, she was nonverbal. So what do you do with that? And from our point of view as EEG researchers, we think that that shows that something maybe with the anesthesia may have changed the brain waves in a way that allowed them to coordinate better, but it was transient. But if she could do it at all, it's not a wiring diagram issue. It's the same impact that I had in 1999 when I saw that protein thing, and I said to myself, this is not what they told me. And when you hear a story like that, when you hear people who pop out of it even for a little while, it means that there is something, there's a capability there. It's not what too many parents have heard from their doctors your kid is trashed, you'll have to institutionalize them. It's just not the right way of looking. It's just wrong. So and then another time, so recently in March, I gave a keynote at the Autism Treatment Network conference. They had the first center to have a scientific conference was in Toronto, and I was invited up. And I think partly on account of their getting slammed by a lot of parental pressure, they had me give the keynote, and then I summed it up. And while I was talking about this stuff, or doing questions, the convener of the meeting said that she and another doctor had had the same experience with two separate patients of kids with asthma. Autism, having asthma attacks, going to the emergency room and getting steroids to help the asthma and starting to talk during the steroids, and then it goes away. But the thing is, the fact that it's there tells you that this is not, it's not absent, that that's the wrong model. This is a really big deal. And many parents, and I think that one of the reasons that parents get so organized and motivated is because they can tell that their kid's in there, and you don't buy the stuff that it's a static encephalopathy. And so I've been trying to give voice to this, and I just got a very nice email 2 nights ago from a researcher I really love in Southern California, and I sent him that paper with the mouthful title, and I said, you might find this interesting. And I just about a month ago, and I got an email back because I finally read your paper, and he said, I wasn't convinced so much by any one piece of evidence as by the steady drip, drip, drip of things that don't fit the model. He said, you would think if it were really a static encephalopathy caused by genes, we would have found something by now, but this is 20 or 30 years and we haven't been very productive, and what you're saying really starts to make a story that we, So, I just feel like it's my job. It's way out there to tell people who just believe that this thing is genetic and developmental, that it's actually an active disease process, and I figure it's going to take 5 or 10 years. But that's what I'm doing. So, how can autism be a purely hardwired brain disorder, a static encephalopathy if things change? This is a slide from the Center for Discovery, which is a wonderful 900-acre organic farm where they take care of people with autism. But they're still going around saying this: if the core features can improve even transiently, could it be a dynamic encephalopathy? That's what I just finished telling you. Now here are 3 papers in not autism. One of them is Fragile X, which is associated with autism. One of them is Rett syndrome, which is associated with autism. And one of them is tuberous sclerosis. This was all animal models. What they did, these are things which were thought to be permanent neurodevelopmental, but they reversed them in the animal models through very well-designed molecular interventions. Again, saying that this is partly an active process. It's not a static process. And here are 2 papers where injecting a drug that inhibits this inflammatory chemical called tumor necrosis alpha that our bodies produced transient but notable cognitive and verbal improvement in people with Alzheimer's. Now, if you look at an Alzheimer's brain with all the cell loss and the button, you would think that that's what's causing it, but it looks like there's a big component that's caused by some active chemical that you could actually do something about. Now, this is not a treatment that you can live with. It's just a proof of principle. The same way the fever thing, you're not going to have kids take steroids or fever all the time, but the fact that they can even show a change like that.